I just thought I'd do a bit of a live stream this evening in celebration of the occasion. Fortunately, this year the rain has canceled a lot. We've had a ton of storms in the area. However, it's given me an opportunity to do this live stream, so I guess things are not too bad. Anyway, hopefully people will join in soon enough. I'm just going to quickly set it to live chat so I can see everybody's messages here. We've got the Tyco Canadiana Sharknose running, and I've also got the custom DD40 or DD35. There seems to be a constant debate on what kind of engine that is, but either way, it's one of those. Well, a bunch of people joining in. Welcome, everybody. A few more Canadian-themed engines, which I'll probably run. We've got these two Century 430s, and I've also got some Canadian railroads, like Canadian National, Canadian Pacific. I'll probably get a few of those running later on, but I'll let these run around for a bit. I'm going to visit Ottawa this September. That's cool. Just check out some of the local train stores if you're near any of them. What's Canada Day? It's a celebration of the country's birthday, so if you're from the States, it's like 4th of July, but for Canada. Usually involves lots of parades and fireworks and things like that. I didn't hear them this year. I'm not sure if they did it, but usually they fly a set of jets across the country. And they might have canceled that. I don't know. Lots of beer. Yeah, there's plenty of that going on for sure. I like the passenger train you're running. Yeah, thanks. This was sent in by a subscriber, this guy Robert. He might be in here later. But yeah, he sent in all these cars, and some of them were projects. He did the painting, and then I assembled them. But yeah, it'd make a really welcome addition to this locomotive, because up until then, there was nothing for it to haul. Any Canadian Pacific steam excursions? I'll probably do that a little later on. We should get the Selkirk out. That would be a good one. Can you have a barbecue on Canada Day? A lot of people do. I mean, you think about the things people do on 4th of July, it's pretty much the same stuff. I've been in the States for the 4th of July, and I've been here for many Canada Days, and other than the flags, there's not too big a difference, I find. A lot of the same sort of festivities. Rave Train, welcome. I just subscribed. Thank you. CSX has a freight yard south of Albany, New York, named Selkirk. That's interesting. I wonder if it has anything to do with it, because I know the Selkirk locomotives were named after the Selkirk Range out in the Rockies, but I'd be curious if any things that have the same name out here are associated with that. 4th of July is coming up this Saturday. Yeah, and it's a big one, the 250. Tucker Ben says, one of my friends said about 5 or 6 years ago he's giving up model trains and is giving me his fleet of all his locomotives. That would be 70 plus engines. Well, I'm sure that's going to be a fun thing to inherit. 70 engines, what a fleet. You're running the Selkirk with the red passenger cars. Yeah, I don't see why not. I'm just going to get the Shark Nose going again and then try to get that moving. Something actually caused these cars to derail. I think I must have been running it a little too fast. Happy Canada Day from your northern neighbor SMT. We're getting ready for the 4th stateside. Yeah, just a couple days. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I guess in Alaska it would be north relative to where I am, but it's funny because usually Canadians refer to the U.S. as our neighbors to the south, and then Americans usually call us the neighbors to the north. But I guess with Alaska, it sort of changes that. The Canadiana DD35 is so blurst. Do you have a Canadian F unit? Happy Canada Day. I don't know if there is a Canadiana F unit. I definitely have like some CN and Canadian Pacific locomotives, but yeah, I think that's about it. Anyway, I'm just gonna go get the Selkirk here. SMT, if I send you a Tyco Power Torque Durango, would you be able to fix it? It was my granddad's. May he rest in peace. It is slipping and doesn't move, but the light works. Well, at least it's not hopeless. It's probably just the pinion gear. Honestly, if you just put a little bit of CA on top of that, it'll probably fix it. I personally don't do any repairs that involve shipping, but if you want to send me an email, I can try to help you with that. I haven't seen the layout in a while. I can see you're making some changes. Yeah, in the last video I added on this locomotive storage area, which I haven't tested a crazy amount, but so far I really like. And I got the gully reinstalled. There's a ton that's happening. Still a lot to do, obviously, in terms of adding detail, but I'm glad things are starting to come together because it was only a few months ago where this layout was just this one table and things were pretty limited. So it's getting there. I'm also hoping this summer to start garden railroading. Do Canadians get a paid day off work for Canada Day? Not in the private sector. I think public servants do, but no. If you're self-employed or working for a private company, I've never heard of that. garden railroading. Yeah, with G-scale trains, they're all waterproof, and so you can. Well, not all G-scale trains are waterproof, but a lot of them are, and so you can build a railroad outdoors in your garden and have actual plants and so on. It's something I've wanted to get into for a while, but before, I was living at my parents' place, so it wasn't really an option. But now that I have my own place and my own backyard, I think I'm going to get into that because I really like being outdoors. It's the only thing about this hobby is that it kind of keeps me in the basement, which when the weather's bad is fine, but when it's a nice day out, kind of kicks me that I'm down here when I could be outside in the sun. So yeah, I want to take the trains outside and start doing some model railroading out there. Just gotta get the track and all the other infrastructure. I do have a locomotive on the way from England, though. It's not a British engine. I don't know how it ended up there, but I'm pretty excited for that to arrive. Are any Canadian steam locomotives still running about? Canadian Pacific 2816 was running not too long ago. I think Canadian National is working on getting number 6060 operational again. And there's some live steam at Expo Rail, but that's about it at the moment. I'm not aware of too many other steam operations. Hello from Cincinnati. Glorious Cincinnati, home of what used to be Forest Fair Mall. What's your opinion on Athearn Genesis? I like Genesis. I don't have a crazy amount of Athearn Genesis stuff, but it has a lot of blue box roots. Like, it's a lot of the same frame, in terms of like the gearboxes and everything. There's a lot of similarities. It's basically just better detail and obviously, more electronics. But I find, like, I bought a Via P42, which is an Athearn Genesis, and it's been great. Florida is hot as ever. I'm sure it's warmer there than it is here by a long shot, but for Canadian standards, it's been pretty high. It was, I think, 45 with the Humidex. That's Celsius, which I think would be over 100. I don't know. Probably be in the 90s at least. Let me have a look. $45. I think that'd be about 110. You run a Canadian National unit? Yeah, absolutely. Probably swap out the shark nose because it's a little bit noisy. Why didn't Canada make any articulated steam locomotives? Was it the track clearance or something? I don't think it had too much to do with the track, because the Selkirk, has 10 driving wheels, and they were able to go through the Rockies. So I think it was just more of a matter of capacity. In the United States, you got a population that's 10 times the size, so your trains are going to be longer and stuff. And I think because coal is a bigger industry, I think that there was a bigger need for stronger steam locomotives. So I think that's why the Canadian railroads didn't use any articulated engines. They just used single engines. But yeah, it's kind of surprising. I feel like a Challenger probably could have been used here quite easily. What an awesome project. I'm a first timer here. What are your thoughts on trains running around the borders of ceilings? My uncle had those throughout his home. Great channel. Thank you. I've never set up a train around a ceiling before. I've seen it at a lot of places. I think the only thing I probably would do is if I was setting something like that up, I'd add some guardrails, because Even larger trains, once in a while, you can have a derailment. And what I could see going really wrong is obviously if you have a train up on the ceiling and it derails, it's going to fall and break or land on someone. But other than that, I think it's awesome. I know some nicer schools have that, and a lot of museums and places like that have it as well. In fact, in Ottawa, we have a grocery store which has a train which runs around it, a G scale set, which is pretty cool. How's the Z scale train holding up? I haven't run it in a long time. I'm gonna have to get that all set up again. Where's the N scale layout? I just hauled it off into the other room. I have the intention of rebuilding that. Do you have any Thomas and Friends models? I can't say I do. Just looking for a good Canadian National F unit. I'll throw on a Canadian Pacific for the time being because I can't find one. You still have the cheap train set? Yeah. Yeah, I've still got the engine and cars from that. Just get a trolley going. Yeah, I could do that. There we go. This one's nice. It's so quiet. Jumps tonight for the fireworks. Well, I don't know about you, Mike, but here in Ottawa, we had a horrible storm today, and they've called off all the fireworks and everything else. I was talking to GVO, lots of storms. Yeah. No, it got so bad on one of the freeways that they actually had to close it. There are pictures in Ottawa from today of cars, SUVs, which are about a foot off the ground, right? And the water was all the way up to like the grills. It was insane. That stuff usually doesn't happen here, but yeah, it was a bad one today. I didn't lose electricity here, but apparently a lot of people in the region have. New subscriber, do you have any ViaRail? Yeah, I got some ViaRail engines. I'll put one on the track. Somebody earlier was asking me about Athearn Genesis, and this is my latest Athearn engine. So far, I quite like it. What Canadian National locomotive did you put on? Right now, I just put on a Canadian Pacific. I think I'll probably put on a Canadian National E8. I just couldn't find one of my regular Canadian National F7s. Look at the VIA engine pulling these cars around. Do you know what kind of motor came in the Bachmann Spectrum Century 440-H's? I'm not sure. I would suspect if you're trying to replace the motor, you could probably just buy a dual shaft motor off eBay and throw it in there with a bit of modification, because Bachmann motors are not particularly special. Like, you could probably put a higher quality motor in one of them. Now, this engine right here is also equipped with DCC and sound, and it's kind of loud. Hey, some T, are you going to do the groundwork on the other side of the layout? I'm subscribed. Yeah, absolutely. Eventually, I want to add details to all of this. I'm just going to shut the sound off here. Yeah, eventually I want to add details to everything right here. It's just the track work is always the priority, so I just want to, get this set up, test it out, make sure it all works well, and then, after a while of running things on it, if there doesn't seem to be any consistent problems, then I'll lay out the ballast and add ties under the rail joiners and things like that, add scenery and so on. Got a lot of ideas too. I want to, I think, build some sort of an abandoned locomotive section right here. Just thinking about putting like some weathered engines kind of rusting away on some decrepit track. Maybe have a few buildings around here. Colby's Project Bin, welcome. I got a Tyco 080. I don't know what's wrong with it. Well, the older Power Torques are just notorious for having a whole bunch of issues, so there's quite a bit that could be the cause there. Is this all the same track you used for the locomotive rebuild videos? Yeah, it's the exact same model railroad. Some newer subscribers to the channel might be a bit confused, because if you watch a lot of my repairs, the layout looks a lot different, and that's because around half a year ago I moved from my parents' place, and so this was all basically rebuilt, and a lot of the stuff from the previous layout has been laid out differently, so if you watch some of my older repair videos from even like a year ago, it's going to look different, but it is the same layout. This section is pretty much identical right here. Hope you guys out east aren't getting crazy tornado weather like the folks in the middle have been. There have been tornado warnings. So far, there hasn't been any locally, but we have been getting a lot of rain and some pretty epic thunderstorms. We had a side shot of the train. Yeah, sure. Are you in need of some 70s vintage track with a couple switches? The amount of track would be for a single loop. Luckily, I have quite a bit of track in storage. I saw the lights flicker a bit. If the stream stops abruptly, it's probably because of a power outage, so just keep that in mind. Do you wish that 4014 would come up north to Ottawa or some other Canadian city? I don't know anything about Canada. I would be really surprised if they did that, because the Union Pacific doesn't have too much involvement here, but it would be great if they did. I'm sure if they chose to do that, though, they would probably go to like Vancouver or Toronto, maybe Montreal, but Ottawa does not have a whole lot of rail infrastructure, so I would be I think it would be like a 1 in a million chance if they. I don't even know if they could take the big boy to Ottawa, honestly. I don't know if the track would support it. I remember getting home and looking at my notifications, seeing a video called I had to destroy my HO layout, my stomach dropped. Yeah, taking that apart honestly was not a great feeling. I mean, it had to be done, but it's a lot better building things up than taking them down. Because that had been there for, 15 plus years. Manitoba has some Union Pacific stuff, I think, but I doubt they'd bring the big boy up here. Yeah, I find the big boy seems to stick more to like the southern parts of the states. I know recently they were in Scranton, but I feel like that's about as far north as it's gone. Don't quote me on that. I've seen some Canadian Pacific locomotives pass through Nebraska occasionally. Yeah, well, Canadian Pacific now has lines all the way from Canada to Mexico, so it's not surprising that there's a lot of rail activity throughout North America at this point. Nathan says, you're actually right, Harrison. It did go to Scranton, but before that I've seen it in person with the Reading and Northern. I have a Tyco HO Chattanooga steam locomotive number 638, and also the HO scale Chattanooga steam locomotive. It is 150 years old. It still runs. The real one, yeah, that's a pretty remarkable. New member, yeah. Welcome to the Well Folks Club, Nicholas. You know how to convert a 3-rail locomotive into a 2-rail? If so, would you ever make a tutorial on it? I did a video where I converted one of my grandmother's 3-rail Trix locomotives into a 2-rail engine. It's not impossible to do. I know Darth Santa Fe was also successful with converting one, but the tricky thing is that 3-rail engines pick up power on both outer rails, so you need to isolate one side of the wheels. It's not impossible, but there's so many different brands out there that trying to do that on every single type would be really tricky. So I couldn't just make like a generic video on it. If you had a simple loop with a passing siding, what trains would you run on it and how would you decorate it? Sorry if I'm bombarding you with questions. A simple loop with the passing siding. Probably the same stuff. I don't know. If I had to have a very small layout, maybe I'd run like this Bombardier Talent set or something, try to recreate a local transit system we used to have in Ottawa. Thank you for the super chat, Nicholas the Train Man. What's your favorite Southern Pacific locomotive? 4449, without a doubt. Harrison, I might have to move. My apartment is getting sold. I don't know what's going to happen. Anything is possible. It's a mystery. Well, I hope everything goes well with that, Nathan. No, moving here was a little bit of a trek, but once you get set up, things get better. Is my Tyco 080 fixable? I would say almost certainly. I mean, I don't know what the problem with it would be, but Tycos are incredibly common locomotives, so trying to find parts for them is pretty easy because you can just steal parts off other engines. Like PowerTorque's, it doesn't matter if it's a PowerTorque diesel or a PowerTorque steam engine. You can usually share parts in terms of the motor, the gears, things like that. And I would say like 90% of the time you have an old Tyco that doesn't run. If you just open it up, clean it really well, solder any broken wires, it will fire right up. Really, the only terrible thing that can happen to an HO scale locomotive is one, you strip the gears out, or two, you fry the motor. Even then, that doesn't necessarily render a locomotive hopeless, because like I've had Tyco engines that have burned out an armature, and again, since the parts are so generic, I just throw another armature in there. And same thing with the gears. The gears are so common you can replace them, but those are really the only two things that with some projects might kind of grind things to a halt. I think we had a super chat there. I don't know where that went. Molten Tom, thank you so much for the 99 cents. Hey Harrison, I have a question. Are you going to see Union Pacific number 3985 when it is restored to operation? I'm certainly not against it. I wasn't aware they were restoring that engine, to be honest with you. Do you think Hobbytown vintage locomotives are worth fixing? I would say so. A lot of the Hobbytown engines, if you rebuild them well, can run quite nicely. I think the only time I might opt not to restore one is if it has zinc pest, because I've seen some which have zinc pest. And if you have a gear case that has zinc rot or a chassis that has zinc rot, there's not that much you can do about it. So in that case, I would probably just part it out. But yeah, otherwise, a lot of the time they'll bounce right back to life. And if you're willing to really fiddle with them, you can make them run pretty well. Thank you so much for the super chat, Nicholas the Train Man. You should run a big steam train. All right. Do you use a phone or computer to buy trains on eBay? Most of the time I use a computer. It's just easier to see things in detail and read descriptions. But the eBay app can be helpful if you're out on the go and there's an auction you want to participate in. Sometimes if I find something really special, I'll put a reminder on my phone, and then if I'm out somewhere, I can just casually bid. SMT, could you explain how to modify the Pico switches to be more reliable as far as adding jumper wires underneath them? Yeah, sure. I'm just going to throw on another steam locomotive and then I'll show you what I do with those. I think that this will run on the inside circuit. We're going to try to do that. SMT, do you remember the TV show Mighty Machines? Absolutely. I grew up with Mighty Machines. I watched so much of it, and I still once in a while will find some of the scenes from the episodes on YouTube because they actually did one in Ottawa, so there was a lot of the transit system around here featured in it. Sort of serves as a good time capsule for what Ottawa's transportation system was like in the early 2000s. Yeah, they had a lot of great Mighty Machines episodes. I remember always liking that show. Molten Thomas, I also put a donation with no message. Yeah, I read it. Were you into SpongeBob when you were a kid? Yeah, I sure was. That was a funny show. The only thing about SpongeBob is there were some weird episodes. That show could get. It would be a normal show, and then there would just be like one episode where it would go like very trippy on you. Thank you for the super chat, Nicholas. Do you own any Metro stuff? I've got at least 2 Metro locomotives. Der Deutsch Professor, welcome to the live stream. And Rando says, do you have an HO scale Selkirk steam locomotive, Canada's largest steam engine? Yes, I was running that a few locomotives back in this live stream. Opinions on gooses. The only thing better than Canada gooses is Canada mooses. If you know the reference, you know the reference. I'm on vacation in New Hampshire. Tomorrow I'm heading to Maine to the Trolley Museum and hitting up some antique stores on Route 1. That sounds like a lot of fun. If you're looking for any places with trains on Route 1, I find this place called Beaumar Hall sometimes has some model train stuff. There's also Antiques USA, although I was there just a few weeks ago and I didn't see any model train stuff. But yeah, it's worth going through those 2 stores if you're on the hunt for trains. In the Mighty Machines episode at the train yard, they showed an Alco in service. You don't see Alcos on Class 1 railroads anymore. Yeah. The thing with SpongeBob is many of us grew up into a Squidward. I mean, I can't say I fully relate to Squidward, but I can understand his frustrations more. Did you watch the Dukes of Hazzard? I haven't seen too many episodes. I've seen some episodes on YouTube, but I did watch the 2005 movie. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, I'm just gonna go see if I can find one of the switches so I can show that electrical bypass I was talking about. Ice Rails Cooking. Thank you so much for joining the Well Folks Club. Yeah, so Pico switches are my favorite. The reason I like them so much is because they've got an internal spring. They look really realistic, and because they're meant for HO and 00 stock, you can run British equipment, German equipment, Italian equipment with really large flanges. They'll pretty much accept anything, so they're really good from that standpoint as well. But they do have a bit of a flaw, and that is that over time the electrical contacts fail because these switches are isolated. So if you have the switch set for this direction, power flows this way, and if you switch it, it flows that way. So in order to fix this, what you do is you solder this rail, which is just one great big piece, to here. And so it no longer has to rely on this section right here. And then you do the same on this side. Again, it's a continuous rail, and you solder that to there. And by doing this, you just make the switch basically one piece of metal, and then it avoids a lot of electrical problems. I just got a Digitrax UT6 and a Digitrax Zephyr Extra for only $105 with some extra DCC sound, trains, and rolling stock. Do you think that was a deal? Yeah, if you managed to get all that stuff for $105 plus some engines, that's an amazing deal. Is the green and yellow engine in the yard the same as the runaway Duluth South and Short Atlantic Railway? No, it's a Soo Line engine. Changing over to DCC, what's the best track to use? Nickel Silver or keep the brass track? For DCC, I would definitely recommend switching over to nickel silver. Brass track will work to some extent, but because it's more prone to oxidizing, it's just not going to work as well with DCC. But nickel silver is very reliable, so I'm sure if you switch it over, it should lead to trouble-free operation. And Nicholas, the train man, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you have a favorite steam engine? Mine is Union Pacific 5511. My favorite steam engine, I guess small railroad steam engine would be the Swedish E2, number 909 from the former HCW railway. In terms of a famous steam engine, though, I think my all-time favorite has to be 4449. If the Hiawatha was still around, the Atlantic Hiawatha, that would be my favorite. But since it doesn't exist anymore, we'll go with 4449. Nice Canadian flag you got there. Yeah, one thing I really like about it. Let me see if I can find this. Well, I thought it said, but this is a Canadian-made Canadian flag, and same goes for the American flag. It's a US-made American flag. I just think that if you're gonna get a flag which represents your country, you should get one that is made in the country it's supposed to represent. Fully agree, SMT. The Duluth Shore and Atlantic was an upper let's see if I can say this right. Peninsula Michigan Area Railroad that was absorbed into the SOP line. So the green and yellow is a former DSSA engine IRL. What's the number on the engine? I don't know. Let's go find out. This is all new to me. I don't know anything about the history of that engine, so this is kind of curious. It's number... I can't read it from here. 385. What's the poster? Who's in the poster on the wall? That's Angus Young. I'm bad with names, but the guitarist from AC/DC. SMT, do you know if incandescent bulbs will work with a 1K resistor and a DCC decoder? I can't say for the resistor, but I will say that I have got incandescent bulbs to work on my DCC engines. The only problem I've had is I'm suspicious that some of the larger incandescent bulbs will actually fry the decoder. The really small wheat bulbs have never given me trouble, but there have been a couple times when I've wired up an incandescent bulb off an old Tyco and the decoder's gone bad. And then after disconnecting the bulb and replacing the decoder, the second decoder has lasted. So I'm suspicious that if the bulb pulls too much current, that it wrecks the decoder. What do I do if I can't put my track on a table or buy a table, but I still want to run them on carpet? I don't like how noisy it is with an integrated roadbed. I think the best thing you could do is see if you can buy yourself a sheet of plywood to put on the carpet. So you go to your local hardware store and pick up like a 4x8, or even just put some paper under the track, just something to make sure that the track isn't sitting directly on the carpet, because if you run your trains directly on the carpet, the risk is that the fibers from the carpet can actually get in the gearbox and put a lot of strain on your motor. But just as long as you can keep the track elevated from the carpet, you should be okay. What track do you use? All nickel silver code 100. Almost all the switches are Pico. The regular track is set track. A lot of that's by Atlas, and this is all Atlas flex track right here and through there. Is it true that if I dig down to earth, I'll hit plywood? I don't know. Whenever I was digging at the beach, my granddad always said I was going to dig through to China. SMT, I have an idea. What's that? What's your opinion on Varney steam engines? They're great. They're very welcoming to work on. Almost everything is put together with screws and stuff, so they're pretty easy to take apart. To make them run right, sometimes you need to kind of jive them a little, but they can be wonderful locomotives. They were very high quality for their time, and I would say still hold up very well. Why do you have a Canadian and US flag It's because of how my family is. So my dad was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and my uncles both live in California. So I've got an American side of the family, and then my mom was born in Canada, so Canada, U.S. there. And I go down to the states. There hasn't been a year of my life where I haven't gone to the states at least once. Usually it's like 5 times a year. So I spent a lot of my childhood there, and as a result, I've got a lot of friends and as I mentioned, family there. So it's a very special place to me. And yeah, same goes for Canada. So that's why we got both of the flags up. Have you ever been to Minnesota? I haven't been to Minnesota. I have been to Michigan to see my dad's old stomping grounds, but that's about as close as I've been so far. You find random question? Do you find things are cheaper in the states than in Canada? Generally so. There are some random exceptions, but I mean, first of all, the U.S. dollar is a lot stronger than the Canadian dollar, so like things are just cheaper because a lot of the stuff we import from the states is just being adjusted for the exchange rate, which is like 40%. But also things are just not taxed as high, so yeah, there's a lot of cases where things are cheaper in terms of groceries, things like that. I find there's a pretty big difference. The only exception I would say is like electricity is a lot cheaper here. I'm only paying about 7 Canadian cents for a kilowatt hour, which compared to the cottage in Maine is really good. But yeah, no. Other than that, it's definitely a much more expensive place to live here. G Scale, will you run LGB? I've got some LGB stuff. I'm probably gonna the engine I've ordered off eBay is an Aristocraft, but the track I suspect the extra track I'm gonna order for the garden operation. I think it is. It's all gonna be LGB track. What time is it in Canada? Yeah, I'm on Eastern Standard Time, so it's 10:23. What's your opinion on Bachmann's Acela set? It seems okay. I'm not a very big fan of the couplers on it, but the engines for Bachmann I think are actually really good. I've uh, managed to rebuild mine several times because there was the one I have. A kid threw it at a wall, it broke, and then I rebuilt it. And then a lot of people might remember when I flew the engine off the layout. Then I had to rebuild it a second time, but that was pretty remarkable. It didn't break after all that. Like the drive is still okay, so probably one of Bachmann's best made engines, and mechanically at least. I've had nothing but trouble with Aristocraft. I've heard mixed things about Aristocraft, but I really wanted to get a Dash 9, and it was between Aristocraft and Bachmann, so I decided to go with Aristocraft. What's the most indestructible model train that will run, even if it's just a motor and wheels? I would say the Athearn Blue Boxes. Like, you can refuse to maintain those for like 40 years, and they'll take it. They'll just keep on running. I mean, sometimes the motors pop out of place, but that's really the only problem. Occasionally the gears will split, but that's pretty rare. The older Atlas engines are also very tough, but I don't know if I had to put my life on one, it would be an Athearn Blue Box. Pull the tag off the bridge. All right. It's a monumental occasion because I forgot to do this in the video. The best train store in Alberta has to be Trains and Such. Yeah, I was really impressed when I visited there. They were super nice, and yeah, they had everything: G scale, O scale, HON. The prices were good too, which is impressive because I find a lot of the stores up here usually charge a bit of a premium. What happened to the Hershey's factory? It's still over at my parents' place. I can sleep now. I've been watching the channel for 5 years. Keep it going, my friend. Well, I appreciate you for sticking around that long. That's a pretty long stint. I can sleep peacefully at night knowing that the tag is gone. I knew during the video I should have removed this, but I was just so focused on getting it done that I forgot, and then it was afterwards somebody was like, you forgot to remove the tag, and I was like, oh boy, I'm never going to hear the end of this. The question is, what do I use the $11.95 tag for? Tyco Power Torques are kind of the Honda Civics of model railroading. The Civics are easy to fix like the Power Torques. Yeah, I think a Honda Civic might be a little bit more reliable than a Power Torque, but I get where you're coming from. Power Torques run super hot and require constant maintenance. They're garbage. I haven't had too much trouble with them overheating. The biggest issue I've had with them is the gears. I find that they need to be lubricated really carefully because if you over lubricate them, it gets in the motor where it burns. But if you under lubricate them, you get that horrible squealing noise that they make. So that's probably the biggest struggle I've had with them. Put the sticker back on the bridge and tell people you didn't permanently remove it. Maybe I should just put it on a different part of the track. Do you like Taylor Swift music? Her older stuff isn't bad. Like, she's not a terrible singer, but her fans are nuts. I started watching your channel when I was 9 and 13. I have a 5x8 layout for N-Scale, but I should change the track. I use Bachmann. No, Bachmann's not necessarily like the, especially for N-Scale, it's nickel silver. It's really the steel track. That's the stuff you want to avoid. Yeah, I've used some Bachmann N-Scale track. It's been fine. The only issue I had with Bachmann N-Scale track was the switches. Some of them were not built properly, and they were causing short circuits. But other than that, it's been fine. People say Bachmann's bad. They're not all bad. It's just that I feel like they overcharge for the quality. And Colby says he ran his power torque for an hour straight the other day, and it was mildly warm. Am I tripping, or did I see a freight car on the layout move on its own? I don't know where that would have happened. Have you heard of the AR, the Alaska Railroad? There's another thing that could stand for, but I'm not going to say it, otherwise this is going to definitely lose its monetization. Otto, I'm not a Rail fan. Happy Canada Day. Do you use all KD couplers? I have some older horn hook couplers, but if you're saying like the brand KD, absolutely. Because some people, it's kind of like Kleenex and tissue. They just call any coupler that is a knuckle coupler a KD. Like this one's a Bachmann Easy Mate. But yeah, in terms of actual KD brand couplers, I love them. They're really well made. The metal whisker couplers, fantastic. They're pretty expensive, but they last a long time. I volunteered at the Whistle Stop Toy Museum 2 days ago. I'm going to volunteer there again in 12 days. So I'm glad you decided to go along with that. And yeah, Robert, we got your train out. I saw a video where a man replaced a motor in a Tyco Power Torque with a motor from a game controller. Yeah, I think the motors that they used in the PS2 controllers were the same size as the Power Torque, and I've also heard that some of the motors that are found in CD drives can also be used to replace Power Torque motors. Never done it myself, but probably a worthwhile thing if you have one that has a bad motor. What's your favorite country artist? Mine is Steven Wilson Jr. Favorite country artist? Ian Tyson. Brooks and Dunn. I like Brooks and Dunn. Have you heard of Arkel? No, I haven't heard of that band. I don't know. To me, the Canadian bands that stand out are like Rush and Nickelback. Triumphant April Wine. Yeah, April Wine I think is a little less heard of these days, but there's definitely some April Wine songs in the show The Trailer Park Boys, which was pretty cool. Yeah, Ian Tyson, not a super popular country artist, but some great songs. I think if any of you have ever heard the story about Claude Dallas, he wrote a. I don't know if he actually wrote the song, but he did a cover of it at least. If he wasn't the writer, and yeah, it's an amazing story. CCTV be like, it's kind of the same angle. Can't go wrong with Johnny Cash. I don't think I know anybody who doesn't like Johnny Cash's music, especially I think of the railroad community because he made a lot of railroad themed songs. Casey Jones, and I think he might have done a cover of the Wreck of Old 97. What else? Wabash Cannonball. I'm definitely missing a bunch, but that's what comes to mind. Rock Island Line. Johnny Cash was a big Lionel fan. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think Johnny Cash was also featured in either a Lionel or Tyco commercial. Since we're discussing rock and country music, do you enjoy the music of Three Doors Down? I don't know if I've heard anything from them. He did several Lionel commercials. You can find them on YouTube. pretty legendary. I was able to see the Lionel part of the Lionel collection of Neil Young when I was in Cincinnati a couple of years ago. They had it at Entertainment Junction. You probably have, you just don't realize it. Yeah, that's entirely possible. I don't know. There's a lot of artists' songs that I've heard, and I don't necessarily know the name of the artist or the band, but if you played the songs, I would probably recognize them. Are you planning on getting some America 250 units? I might get some. I don't know. They're quite expensive, but I did buy something special while I was in Maine for the 4th of July special, so stay tuned for that. It's a little bit more vintage than what they have today, but I'm excited to show it on the channel. Holy crap, we just got a $100 super chat. Der Deutsch Professor, thanks again. Oh my goodness. The layout is coming along nicely. Here's a bit to assist you, everyone. Enjoy this live chat. Best wishes from Germany. Well, thank you so much. Really didn't have to do that, but we pretty much funded a good portion of this yard right here. So, yeah, really do appreciate it. Definitely means a lot in terms of expanding the layout. I visited Entertainment Junction twice. I was sad to hear when it closed. I don't think it's going away. I think that they're moving it to Kentucky. It's definitely not all going to waste. I think they're going to reopen it. Probably won't get any of the America 250 locomotives, but I might get one of the reefers Walthers is doing. Hey Harrison, someone who usually loves a railroad that usually does crap liveries, CSX actually cooked with their 250. I was very impressed. Same with Norfolk Southern. I really didn't have very high expectations for their 250 year locomotives, but they turned out very well. And same for BNSF. I like BNSF's paint schemes, but their heritage units usually were not that great. So yeah, no, all the Class 1 railroads, in my opinion, did a really good job when it came to the 250 units. I would actually argue that the Canadian railroads were more patriotic for Canada or for America's 250 than they were for Canada 150, because Via Rail made some Canada 150 units, but I don't think the Canadian railroads even made anything for Canada 150. So the fact that they made something nice for America 250, I think, is quite impressive. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters? What gave you the idea to do the introduction in every video? Well, folks is a pretty common phrase. But yeah, I just wasn't sure how to start a lot of videos. Like, if you watch some of my really old videos that are, from like 10 years ago. I would say, so in today's video, or something like that. And then there's this one video where I just said, well, folks, and a lot of people seem to really like that. It resonated with them. So I was just like, okay, I guess we'll go with that. And it just never changed. Some people don't like it, but I think if I tried to change it, I would get more comments the other way saying, why'd you stop saying well, folks? So, yeah, I think it's pretty embedded in the channel at this point. What state in Canada has the most train shops? I'm not sure which province would have the most train shops. Probably Ontario. This is off topic, but I watched the car chase in the Blues Brothers. What a wild part of the movie. I love it. It's just 80s land yachts slipping and sliding all over the place. More Canadian flags and memorabilia for the walls. I'd say Montreal. Montreal does have Van Horn Hobbies, which is a pretty impressive store. There are some other shops in Montreal I haven't been to yet. I really should visit them because I'm sure it'd be worth it. But yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, Ontario is Quebec and Ontario are both massive. So you could have two train stores that are like a 2-day drive apart. Technically, the car in the Blues Brothers was a '74 Dodge, but yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I mean, I think Blues Brothers came out in 1980, so yeah, it would be '70s, '80s. But I find American cars like from the '70s, like even into the '90s, there wasn't much changing. Like the Oldsmobile I have, I've seen '90s era ones, and they shrunk the car, but it fundamentally looks the same. It was really like the end of the '90s where I feel like American cars changed a lot because there was more pressure for fuel economy and things like that. What was your first train set? It was a lifelike Charger something. It was a lifelike Charger. It's a Canadian National set. I only have one train store near me, and I only do HO at Collect O Gauge, so most antique stores fill my collection. Well, if they carry model railroad stuff, that's one way to do it. I've seen some great deals at antique stores. I wonder why that just randomly shut down. That doesn't look good. What? I think the VIA engine has been possessed. What is going on here? What the heck? What is going on? I really hope that this is just a glitch with either the decoder or the controller. That doesn't seem right. I'm gonna try to unplug the controller, plug it back in, and see if that fixes it. Are you on a first name basis with your local train store? Yeah, I'm on a first name basis with Hobby House and also with Larkspur Line. Also on a first name basis with some of the people at my local post office. So. Okay, let's see if that fixed it. That's not good. I wonder if I try to run this on DC power if it will do the same thing. Why is it doing that? It was running fine earlier. The Canadian P42 that couldn't. I would like to say it's due to like the wheels being dirty, but they look pretty clean, and also it was running fine up until it started doing that. We'll just give it a rest. Maybe that will fix it. That or it's developing electrical problems, which would be disappointing for a $400 engine. But yeah, we'll fix it. Anyway, good opportunity to throw something else on the layout. So it has Gremlins, yeah. Replace it with the DSSA green and yellow. Yeah, sure. Run the ugly train. Which one's that? I just bought two of them. Two of these things? I think this is a... I don't know if it's sound equipped. It definitely has DCC. The cars probably have tails on them. It's hitting the track and shorting it out. I don't think it's a short circuit, because typically if it's a short, the DCC system just cuts out power. And also it was running around fine for, I don't know, the last 20 minutes. So yeah, I don't know. I think something is probably wrong with that VIA engine, but we'll see. DCC engines sometimes will develop problems over time, and if you just do a factory reset on the decoder, it seems to fix it. I would say to anybody out there that has DCC equipment, if you're having problems with it, always try doing a factory reset on the controller and factory reset the decoder. Quite often that will right the problems, because I could just picture myself opening that up, trying to fix it, only to find out it's just the decoder doing weird things. I don't know why this just derailed. So it's got some truck problems. I'll have to fix that. It's an electrical problem. Do you have any of the train sim games? I still have Trains with the Z, but that's about it. I haven't played any train simulators for an awful long time. Run the big boy with the Canadiana cars behind it. Alright. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get this out on the main line. I don't know. Let's see if my track works here. I think I'll just have the big boy haul these cars because it's on the inside circuit. But I'll get this going here. Have you heard of the Lamborghini trains? I've never heard of such a thing. Apparently I have to replace the spring in this coupler. I don't know when that broke, but it's not doing its job anymore. Is that a Vanderbilt tender on it? I don't think that I don't think the tender for this engine is the correct one. I think Mahano, to save money, reused some tooling. Okay, I see what the problem is here. And it took off without its tender. Nice. Who needs a tender? Yeah, exactly. Make a super long train with some mid-train DPUs. Maybe. I feel like adding a DPU with HO scale is going to end up causing problems. I'm going to be curious to see if the big boy can actually run through this switch. Yeah, no problem. That's great. Use useless dummy locomotives. That's a good idea. Some people don't know that trains have a tender and they sell the coal car separate. That's a problem. That would explain why there's a lot of sellers on eBay that do that. I don't know. There are some sellers on eBay who will say, "Oh, this engine's in working order," and it's like an '80s Bachmann, and the wheels are out of quarter, and it's like, for some reason, I feel like it's not the case. I'm the guy that asked about the N-Scale Kato BNSF freight train starter set. I'm getting a huge B-scale layout. I have a huge budget. I can't wait to start. Well, I may not have a huge budget, but I can't wait to start. Okay. Gotta say, you don't hear too many people saying I have a massive budget for the model railroad. Awesome if you do. But yeah, it's great if you've managed to get your first set. And it looks like we got a super chat from Sean H513. Are you worried that the S-curve in the new reverse loop will cause issues on bigger trains? I really like to work. Like the look of the bridge, though. I don't think that is going to be the issue. There's a lot of switches, which are usually points for derailments, but when experts in the hobby say don't add an S-curve, what they're usually talking about is don't put one track, like don't have a curve and then immediately another curve. Usually if you put a long enough straight between the two curves, you don't have derailing issues. At least not on the sizes of trains I run. Maybe if you're pulling 40 cars you would, but I find kind of like 20-car trains don't seem to struggle with that kind of stuff. Have you heard of the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad? They have an MLW FPA 4 from Canada. I can't say I have, but I should look it up later. I hate when people scam in the model railroad industry. It casts a bad light on the model industry as a whole. Also, Hot Wheels scalpers and diecast hobby car reselling everything for money. Yeah, personally, I'm not a fan of scalpers. I don't think anybody is. I mean, people have the right to not buy something, and so it's not that I think people shouldn't be allowed to do it, but there's a big difference between saying I think somebody should have the right to do something and that they should do it. So yeah, I don't respect it. That's for sure. It's terrible. Seeing people like listing '80s Bachmann stuff, which looks very similar to the modern stuff for the same prices, or they throw like a $30 decoder in an old '80s Bachmann engine, and then they call it DCC. The thing I don't like about that is because you might have some beginner in the hobby that doesn't know any better. They go out and buy that. It's junk, and then it ruins their experience in the hobby, and they quit. What's up, buddy? Cheers from Connecticut. As always, I've enjoyed your channel. I appreciate your dedication. Well, thank you. Have you seen the new Thomas show? Can't say I have. I haven't watched Thomas since the 2000s. And even when I was watching Thomas, it was the old VHS ones. There's sellers that are selling a clapped out Tyco like it's a pile of gold. Yeah, oh, you see that all the time. Especially, I find on Facebook Marketplace, somebody digs out their old Tyco collection, and then they go on eBay and see the overpriced models, and they say, hey, I must be sitting on some money here, and so then they price their Tyco set for like $150 when, you'd be really lucky to get like maybe 30 at a train show. I wish eBay would ban scalpers and scammers. It's actually illegal to scam. Well, a lot of scalpers are not necessarily scammers. Like, to me, a scammer is somebody who either, like, lies about the item, so they say something's in perfect working order when in reality it's not. Or a scammer is somebody that, like, you buy something and then they never ship you the item and they take your money. To me, that's a scam. Scalpers are not necessarily scamming, they're just, like, overcharging, so I don't think it's moral. Like, it's not something that I like. But if you're agreeing to buy an item for a certain price and they send it to you, I don't think that's a scam. It's just a ripoff. Well, it looks like we got a super chat. Thank you so much to the Goon Suit. You need to get a Dueth Missabi and Iron Range locomotive from the Great Canadian Red-Headed Stepchild known as Minnesota. Okay, I'll have to have a look for that. Thank you for the super chat. I hope they're still selling. I hope they aren't selling the trains from the Sears catalog from when I was a child. Those things only lasted a month at best. No idea who made the models for them. For the Sears catalog, my guess with that is that it would probably be a Tyco, Bachmann, or Lifelike products. Probably Bachmann. I think my dad ordered some Bachmann stuff through Sears. I'm having a very rocky start with HO scale, sort of discouraged me, but I won't give up. I started with a Tyco Chattanooga Choo Choo and some diesels, 4 curves of Easy Track. Yeah, don't give up. That stuff is not very reliable, so if you're having problems with it, it's not a skill issue. You just need to keep fiddling with it and you'll get it working. It's finicky equipment. I'm working on my layout and I like listening to your live streams. Thank you so much. That's usually how I watch a lot of people's live streams. Like sometimes I'll watch like Eminem Rails or Go VR Go Home, a lot of their live streams, and yeah, I'll work on my own layout or just do chores. The DMIR operated northern Minnesota hauling iron out of the mines in Great Lakes. Now Canadian National runs it, all refined taconite pellets now. What is taconite? Let's look it up. And it says that taconite is a low-grade flint like iron, typically containing 20 to 30% iron, primarily found in the Lake Superior region. Huh. Learn something new every day. Run the worst looking locomotive ever made. I don't think that engine's running right now. I think it burned out a coil. I was trying to run that in a live stream and I was able to get it moving if I like kick-started the motor, but it wasn't firing up on its own. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to throw a new motor in that engine. I can try to run it again, but the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, so I'm not sure if this is going to make any difference. Of course, because I badmouthed it, it fires right up. Sure, that's fine. There are people in here that will remember the previous live stream where I was trying to run this thing and it would not start to save its life, and apparently just letting it sit on a shelf for a couple weeks has fixed it. This thing is like Christine. It just fixes itself if you let it be. Well, I'm not going to argue with a good thing. That's fine. Tyco trains aren't the best, but Tyco slot cars and trucks look cool. I would say Tyco trains look pretty cool. Like, I love the Golden Eagle and the Spirit of 76 and a lot of the other products they made. Like, Tyco wasn't lousy in terms of making exciting stuff. They just weren't very good at making the most reliable drive out there. Can you run the Royal Hudson with the Canadian National green? I can't run the Royal Hudson at the moment. Unfortunately, I broke the drawbar a few weeks ago. Invisible gremlins. Yeah, apparently. Since you put it in timeout, it's changed its attitude. Yeah. Trivia question. What's the most famous railroad car in the United States that doesn't exist anymore? Bonus points if you tell me the railroad that owned them. Let's go with Florida East Coast. I'm only guessing here. Maybe it's the Milwaukee Road. Maybe it's the original Hiawatha's car. I don't think that exists anymore. Since Mattel owns Tyco, Mattel could make their own HO scale engines and cars. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if any of Tycho's tooling is still around. I wonder whatever happened to all of that. Honestly, what I hope happens is some Chinese company buys tooling and revives a lot of these brands, kind of like what happened with Model Power. Happy Canada Day, David. What was the first train you ran on the channel? It was my grandmother's Rivarossi Hiawatha. The Lehigh New England Railroad had cars known as bottle cars which moved cement around. You mean how model power toolings are being reused? Yeah, exactly. I wish that would happen with other defunct model railroad brands. And I don't think it's impossible because there's old Lifelike tooling out there. There's Tyco tooling that might still be out there. Like, there's a lot of defunct brands. And I suspect in China there's probably a bunch of warehouses that have all this stuff. So if there was some company that would buy all of it, they could probably resume production and then we could have all these cheap brands back again. Not something that professional model railroaders want to see happen, but I think for entry level sets, it would be a really good thing. Writing from Australia, I'm thinking about getting into the hobby. Can you recommend a starter set kit that would be appropriate? Thanks for the great videos. Well, I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, I'm not sure in Australia what the best set would be to get, because I know the market's a little bit different there. I have some Australian locomotives. If Bachmann exists there, they do sell the cheapest starter sets. So if you can try to find one for maybe like, I don't know, 180 Australian dollars, I feel like that would be a good place to just begin. I know Fruteschi, which is a Brazilian brand, also sells stuff in Australia, so that's another brand you could consider starting with. They're not the highest quality, but I have had a bit of luck getting them going, so that's another option. Kato has a very good reputation. I don't know if you can get those in Australia, but that might be another good option. I don't know if there's any other people from Australia in the chat that know any good sets. Put them in the comments, because I don't know what the market out there is for good starter sets. I've only bought engines from there. I think I see a shoe running on the trolley line. The engine is so ugly. Oh, this poor thing. Somebody wants me to run the American Freedom Train with the Canadiana cars. I think I can make that happen. Mattel bought Tyco in the early 2000s. They made some slot cars after that, but I never heard anything about trains. Well, I'm pretty sure Tyco. I think that they stopped making Tyco trains in the 90s, the early 90s. I know that Mantua Tyco continued on for a little bit longer, but I think that they quit production on model trains before Mattel got them. Have you thought about extending the mountains in the background? Yeah, that's the plan. Would you buy a Bachmann NHL train for $250? Personally, I wouldn't. But that's just me. I'm just not in a hockey enough to spend that kind of money on a train set. But if it's something you're looking at, don't let my opinion stop you. I'm sure it'd be. I think those sets have like a Bachmann F unit. I'm sure from reliability and stuff, it would be okay. I can't wait to see the bridge you're gonna make. Oh yeah, it's gonna be epic. I want to go to Princess Auto, buy a whole bunch of steel, and weld up a custom bridge. It's gonna go from here to that wall. Any ideas where I can find a replacement E-unit for Lionel O-Gauge? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. A lot of the components in there are replaceable. I know that because I've seen videos of people buying new E-unit fingers and things like that. It depends how bad you really want the E-unit, though, because if you have a cheap post-war Lionel and you just want to run it, you don't really care about the direction, you can bypass the E-unit. You can like wire around it. Now, you have to wire it so the engine can only go forwards, but I've done that on a couple of old post-war Lionels just to keep them moving. Okay, this is weird because I can hear the engine over there, but it's not powering up, so I don't know if it derailed or if the controller's having problems. Do you love having your own house? I really do. It's just nice being able to film videos at any time and not disturb anybody, and I don't know, just have my own place. I can make my own choices as to what I want to do to things. It's funny because I don't know, sometimes I'll like I don't know. I'll start doing something and I'll think, oh, should I ask somebody? And then I'm like, wait a minute, it's my place. Okay, so this is completely on the track, so I don't know why it stopped, and we know it's getting power because you can hear the engine making sounds. So I don't really know. Will your workshop be in another room? Yeah, well, I've already got an area of the basement which I want to turn into kind of like a woodworking area, and I've also got a garage here, which is great. I'm gonna try to shut the controller off and see if that reboots it. Doesn't want to power up. Let's try giving it DC power. Did the wiring harness break? What's going on here? How come you don't have a Bachman Thomas? I have nothing against Thomas. As I've mentioned before, I really liked watching the show as a kid. Personally, I don't feel the need to add the models to my collection. I just feel like I don't know. I know there are some adults out there that watch Thomas, and I don't judge you if you do. But there's also a lot of kids that are into that, and I don't really want to be making kids content, so that's the main reason I haven't added any Thomas models to the collection. Again, nothing against the show, nothing against the people that watch it. Just personally, I don't feel the need to. Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, that's right. I don't know what the heck is going on with this thing. I'm gonna try to just push the wiring. I don't know if it somehow yanked its own wiring harness out. Knowing Bachman, that would not be a crazy conclusion, but I don't know. Maybe I can make the America 250 special on fixing this engine. Happy Canada Day for those in Canada. This weekend is my country's Independence Day. Yeah, America 250. That's a big girl, yeah. Alright, let's see if that did anything. Probably not, but let's hope for the best here. I feel like this layout is like playing whack-a-mole. It's like I put one engine on the track, which was completely kaput the last live stream, and it fires right up. And then I put this thing on, which is in working order, and it mysteriously quits working. Like, what's the deal with that? Okay, not good. It's back to making noises, but it's not powering up. And if I switch this over to DC power and give it voltage, you can hear it's reacting, but it's not moving. So maybe not enough power down there. I think something has gone wrong internally with the engine. Happens to me too. Yeah, we all have an off day. That's all right. Stupid question, but how many engines can you run up to? Guess. I've run up to about 10 engines on my layout. It's not so much a question of how much power the controller has, because I have a 3 amp controller, but it's more a question of how much track you have without things running into each other. Can you delightfully run a CSX locomotive? I don't know if I can do it delightfully, but I could definitely get a CSX engine on the track. This isn't my most delightful engine, but we'll see if it will work. Where's the Hershey factory going? Either to another place or to this house at some point around May 2027. Either this house or Smith Falls. Whoop. Find a Canadian National diesel and throw it in the place of the Bachmann. Happy Canada Day, as I say, as a steam guy. Well, if you got steam guys voting for diesel engines, you know it's a sign. I'll get this thing going, and then I'll find a good Canadian National locomotive to pull it. How big is your Spirit of 76 collection? I think I probably have at least 10 of the units. I've got a couple of the Tyco 630s. I've got some of the 430s. I've got a little Spirit of 76 switcher, an F unit, of course the 4449. I don't know, I'd have to go through and tally it all up, but I've definitely got quite a few of those. Here's the 630. Yeah, I should rally them all together for the America 250 video. Got this Jeep. There's the F unit. How do you organize your locomotives? Not very well at the moment. I'm trying to sort of reorganize everything based on the type of engine. So instead of organizing them by railroad, I'm trying to get all my F units kind of in one place, all my F40s in another. Got a lot of my GP units down here. Organized some of the SD40-2s all in a row. I still have a long way to go, as you can tell, but I'm hoping to eventually just kind of sort them that way, so that if somebody says, can you run a fill-in-the-blank F unit, I can just grab it off the shelf. You see the Jeep up close? Yeah, sure. I bet this is the bit people want to see, because I heard something, some of these have a special band seal. I don't know. I don't think this is one of them, because I'm pretty sure that was a Tyco feature, but yeah, it's a cool looking engine. Is your big boy 40, 41? This one is number 4000, and I also have 4011 and 4005. I don't have 4014 yet, unless I grab a permanent marker. Fortunately, this does not seem to want to start. Huh, weird. I don't remember this being broken last time. Oh, yeah, okay, I woke it. .4005 has some history to it. Yeah, I believe it's still around, but that was the big boy, which it split a switch and derailed, and then I think the Union Pacific rebuilt it for experimental purposes, but they didn't return it to road service because they were concerned it was a hazard or something. Okay, we had this thing and then we lost it. I don't know what. It's probably the motor being loose. Can happen sometimes in these Rocos. I might just go grab the other one because I'm not so sure if I'm going to be able to get this thing to start. I don't get it. Can you believe we're halfway through the year? I can't. That's crazy. Time moves a little too fast for my taste. Alright, I'm going to go see if I can find another one of these. It's a good thing I bought two. Alright, 2 times the charm. I command it to start right away. It worked! Through the magic of buying two, yeah, that's right. People say, SMT, why are you buying duplicate locomotives? It's so that when one of them randomly stops working, you can just put the other on the track and save the day. You're on a trolley? Yeah, let me find one. You know, on the internet, the term trolling is used a lot. You know, it's trolling like you're trolling in your boat. It's a fishing term, and a trolley, it's got the same thing. It's got a fishing rod, and so when this is up, it's trolleying. At least that's what they said at the trolley museum. I have no idea. It's running half derailed, yep. I got the same one for $8 at an antique store. It's a pretty good deal for one. Can you do a day in the life of someone on your layout? That's an interesting idea. I'd have to put together some sort of a story, though. Have you ever heard of the Cincinnati Union Terminal in Ohio? Not only have I heard of it, I've been there before. Beautiful place. It's like a cathedral on the inside. It's amazing. I think Amtrak still operates there for private trains too. And apparently we've got a hard trivia question. GP locomotives were known as the greatest of all times by crews. What are the SW1, SW1200, and SW1500 known as? I feel like I learned this at some point, but I can't remember what the answer is. The SW, it all usually stands as something a lot simpler than you would expect, like GP, general purpose. Do you have a UK A1 or A3 model? I've got an A4. Don't think I have an A3. The SW1200s and 1500s are known as pups for their small size. Got this thing right here, and this is it's a Scandinavian SW 1200, known as a T43. Do you like Bachman pancake drives? In some ways, I do because they're kind of easy to work on. The only thing I don't like about the Bachman ones is that they put that anti-tamper resin over the screws to prevent people from opening them. But other than that, they're fine. There's also the cracked gear issue, but I find a lot of the pancake drives will run even if they've been sitting for a while, so they're not horrible. I would trust one over Power Torque. Where do you buy gears for Proto 2000? Some hobby shops will have them in stock, but Walthers still sells gears for Proto engines, so you should be able to order them right off their website. I trust the reliability of a Yugo over most Power Torques. I think one of my dad's friends used to have a Yugo, and his parents gave it to him because they had bought a Cadillac or something, and the dealership was so desperate to get rid of the Yugos, they were giving them away with cars. So if you bought a Cadillac, you'd get a free Yugo. I'm a sucker for old brass engines that need repair. They can be very enjoyable to work on if you're willing to be patient with them. I've had a few which have given me a run for my money in terms of my knowledge on repairing these things. But yeah, if you're willing to sink some time into them, they can be fun. Isn't the Yugo a communist car? I don't know. I think it might have been. It probably was in that era, but I think they were still making the Yugo even after the USSR. What's the longest train you've run? Can you run a longer one tonight? I think the longest train I've ever run is about 40 cars. I don't really want to put one together that large, though, because it's going to be a nightmare to clean up. You MJ fan? Michael Jackson made some good music. Not like the biggest fan, but yeah, some good songs. Can you run an MRL SD70 ACE? I don't know which railroad the MRL is. Answer 2, how do you keep the hobby interesting? Have a goal. I think that is probably the most important one, because this is a mistake that I think a lot of beginners make. Is they get their first starter set, and my experience with a starter set is you get the box, it's exciting, and then you set it up and it's exciting, and then you start running it around, and then that's where it gets boring. You run it around for a few loops, and it's fun, and then it starts to get dull. But it's the unfortunate thing there is I feel like a lot of people would say, okay, I've experienced model railroading, and I don't like it. This is boring. So I feel like you have to have a plan, like something you're headed towards. So it's like, okay, I want to build a 4x8 layout with this, and if you have stuff to always do on your model railroad, it doesn't get boring. So like for me, uh, laying out a new piece of track or adding on a new industry, working on the scenery, or fixing a locomotive are all things to do. Like, there are some engines that I buy brand new because I want that specific engine, but a lot of the time, the reason I like buying older engines that are in non-working condition is because I find the process of fixing them can be very enjoyable. So yeah, you have to always have something to keep your hands busy, and you have to have a goal to work towards. And I find if you have that, the hobby will never get boring. A lot of people always say too that, oh, I wish I could get into model railroading, but I don't have the money or I don't have the space. And I don't deny that those things will definitely make it more difficult to get into model railroading, but there's a lot of ways you can uh, you know, enjoy the hobby without a lot of space and without a lot of money. I need to make more videos about that because I have a lot of ideas there, which I want to share. But yeah, it's amazing like how far scrap wood and paint from the dollar store and used track can go. Like if you're willing to invest the time, you can create something remarkable with very little. How long did it take you to build your layout? Well, this whole side of the layout I've been building over the last few months. I don't have a specific timeline because I've been working on this layout since 2007, but I've built layouts in 6 months before. You can you can build a layout pretty quick if you have the materials and everything on hand. It's usually the planning phase, which I find slows a lot of people down. Have you seen the Duke Energy trains running on the holidays at the Cincinnati terminal? I haven't seen those, but I know what Duke Energy is because they were supplying Forest Fair Mall with the electricity. But I didn't know they had trains. I should look that up. For a new experience, you should try your hand at building a car kit or building a craftsman kit that your viewers sent you. Yeah, I need to open some of those. Model railroading is where mechanics meet art and creativity. Well, and there are people out there. There's a phrase that's like model railroading is the world's greatest hobby, and I tend to agree with that because it can be so many different things. Like I know some people who are into model railroading that aren't that into trains. Like for them, it's more about building like a diorama, and part of building like a real world scene. A lot of real world scenes involve trains, so they'll involve model trains just because it's part of the scene, but it's not the focus. But then there are other people, like I'm sure a lot of you here, who are more into the trains, and you build the set for the trains, and then the scenery comes later. But yeah, it combines so much. Like you're building a table, that's carpentry. You're painting stuff, that's art. You're wiring stuff, that's electrical. You're taking apart a locomotive, that's mechanical. There's a lot of different skills that go into the hobby, and it's nice that it combines so many things. And I mean, even too, if you really wanted to argue, you could say, oh, you're involving city planning and um, I don't know, even surveying land in a way. Thank you so much for the super chat, uh, Reagan Fruit. Been watching you for a while. Keep it up. Thank you. Is the mountain layout hooked up? If so, could you run a train on it? Yeah, sure. Wonder if this would run on the mountain layout. I wonder if the red locomotive is still running or if it's stalled out. Oh, no, there it is. I think the track's a little bit dirty. Come on, little buddy. I like the haunted house. Apparently, the model is loosely based on the Addams Family house. I think if I can get this just to make one loop around here, it will start to work better. Yeah, see, it made it through on its own that time. Yep, come on. So close. It's definitely starting to clear up. You can see the engine's running a lot faster. Alright, see if it makes it up over the mountain this time or not. Yes, going further. A little bit further. All right, I did it. Red is not a good color. Everything red isn't working right. I think it's figured itself out. Have you ever heard of Entertainment Junction in Westchester, Cincinnati, Ohio? It has recently been closed. By the way, my name is Miles. I'm a huge fan. Keep up the good work. Yeah, I was at Entertainment Junction on January 5th, 2025, which was the final day. It was an amazing place. I was really impressed. I wish I had got to see it more in its heyday, but it was wonderful getting to experience that. I have the whole video filmed. I just need to narrate it. See if I can find the footage here. Is it? Oh, they had great deals when they were liquidating. By the time I was there, most of it had been sold off. I have a bit of footage in the store, but yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can find the tour I did of the place. Here it is. This was this was the drive down to Cincinnati. We were going through a pretty bad storm, and then the next day we arrived in Cincinnati, and this is when we arrived. What it all looked like, and that's Forest Fair Mall we were driving past before that was all demolished. And they were still set up for Christmas. Let's see here. Yeah, I was amazed by. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, I think this was the scene I was most impressed by. Like there was just so much going on. Yeah, this is what the store looked like when me and Chloe were there. There was nothing, 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 nothing. So anyway, eventually I'll get around to narrating that, and everybody will get to see the full version. But that was the trip to Cincinnati. I love the Alco FA locomotives, just something about the boxy shape makes it look nice to me. A lot of them exist in model railroading too. I have 4 of them in O-gauge. Thank you so much for the super chat, Hostia, Mark. I wish I knew S&T. I would have met you there. Yeah, that whole trip was not really what I had hoped for. Getting to see Entertainment Junction was a great thing, but the snowstorm kiboshed so many plans. There was a lot of places around Cincinnati I was hoping to see, and I would have put out a public notice, but truth be told, I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to make it there before Entertainment Junction closed. So it wasn't a complete fail, but not what I had in mind. What's the best brand of HO locomotive? I think for me it would either be Kato or Athearn. I can't believe the stream is running this way. Are you familiar with the Underground Railroad that never finished? I think I have heard some stories about that in Cincinnati they were trying to build a trolley line, and there's actually some trolleys down there and none of it was ever used. I can show you ways to get in. Okay, good to know. SMT, may I ask you something? Yeah? Are Atlas engines any good? I would say so. I really like Atlas products. Their older engines are well made, like this red one. And I have some of their newer ones, and they've never let me down. Never got finished and ran out of money. They just fenced up all the entrances. Yeah, Not Gavin says Atlas has to be my personal favorite manufacturer. They make literally everything. Yeah, they do have a pretty good product line. Would you hate a Western Pacific GS 4 steamer, but with California Zephyr colors? I don't know how that would look, but I don't think I would hate it. Is that a Kansas City train in the turnout? What's the difference? Kansas City. Oh yeah, no, that's not. Does have some of the same colors as the Kansas City Southern, but no, that's the train from Unstoppable. And it looks suspiciously like Canadian Pacific's Kansas City's new paint scheme. But yeah, it's not the same. This is not a real paint scheme. This was part of a movie. And Outhouse Don't Like School. That's an interesting name. What are your thoughts on Bachman's Thomas models? I've never worked with them before. I suspect they would be okay. I'm not personally like the biggest fan of Bachmann products. I find they're a little bit overpriced for the quality, and I suspect they probably have similar quality to their steam engines. Are they going to be complete junk? Probably not. But I also wouldn't expect anything like spectacular from them. They got me confused. Yeah, I could see how. Yeah, they do have some in common. Uh, and Trainboy01 says the Thomas models suck. Do you use 3-volt LEDs to light your buildings? My buildings are all lit up with 12-volt bulbs. The lights inside them are actually automotive lights. These are courtesy lights. You can buy these off Amazon pretty cheap. You buy a big pack of them. I think they're like, I don't know, 15 cents a piece or something. And then I have a 5 amp automotive, not an automotive power supply, but I have a 5 amp 12-volt power supply that powers all the automotive lights, and I find they do a fine job. It's a lot cheaper than buying actual modeling lights. What happened to the haunted house on the layout? Well, there's this haunted house, and then there's one right here. These are the only two I've ever had on the layout. How are the house renos going? Very well. Doing a lot of work on the floors upstairs. It's pretty much been it. Thought you changed it up. Yeah. This is still where it was, but the other place has moved. It's Christine, yeah. What are your thoughts on the classic wooden toy trains? You know, the ones that connect with magnets? I like those a lot. That's what I had when I was really young. I never had any of like the battery powered ones. I just had the the wooden ones, and yeah, I had quite a few of those. What's your time zone in Canada? Also, what do you think of Ferrari? Well, Canada doesn't have one time zone. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, but I think there's also Mountain Time and a couple others, depending on what side of the country you're on. As for Ferrari, I would never buy one. They're nice looking cars, but I don't like the culture around them. I do like though that Ferrari, by creating enemies, led to the creation of Lamborghini, and also it allowed Ford to beat them at their own game. That was pretty funny. What are your thoughts on Norfolk Southern's 250 heritage units? I think they look really good. They caught me off guard with that. I didn't think they were going to do a very good job, but not bad. Can you run something for the 4th of July? I'm going to be putting together a 4th of July special, a brand new train. Well, new to me, that is. Do you still have the American Freedom Train? Yeah, I was running that earlier. It stalled out on the layout, and I wasn't able to get it moving again, but still got it. There was a German modeler who built an entirely of Stuttgart station in N scale. 85% of he died 85% of the way in. Luckily, it's preserved in a museum. Some parts would not fit. Considered making a model railroad channel. I'm typing this on my gaming channel. Usually big into trains during the train show season. I may not upload much. Can you run the the Amtrak P40DC with the Canadiana cars? Sure. I think after that I'll probably finish off the live stream because it's starting to get kind of late, but I can do that. What's the most generic type of engine of all time? In model railroading, I would say a Santa Fe F7. In the real world, I guess any Gevo. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. This is your prime starter set locomotive. Got like a million of these things from different manufacturers. This I think is a FT. I got one of the Bachmann ones, another Bachmann one. The F7, the Gateway locomotive. Where's the N scale layout? I just moved it off to the other room for now. The HO layout is gonna take over this room, and then I think the other room is gonna be O scale, N scale, all the rest of it. I'm heading off for a long meeting with my Pillow SMT. Thanks for an awesome live stream. Will he ever show the Oldsmobile in a future video? I'll have to feature it. It's been requested a lot, so I hope something cool pops up on Facebook Marketplace. I could add that as part of the video, like driving to pick up the stuff with the Oldsmobile. Anyway, I think I'm going to finish off the live stream. Thank you all so much for joining in this evening. As usual, I had a lot of fun running different trains and chatting with all of you out there. Happy Canada Day to everybody. And yeah, hopefully we'll make something interesting for the 4th of July special. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, otherwise, just have a wonderful evening, everyone.